Well, we've got two disturbing trends on tap for our discussion in this week's program. In fact, with these trends, we're going to share some specific stories that popped up just this past week that sort of underscores how much these two trends can cost you money, can make you feel, or in fact are, a victim of said trend, and more importantly, what you can do to avoid losing money, having these trends cost you, and finding yourself in the role of the victim. We will, as we do, change the names and amounts to protect the innocent, if you will. But hold on to your radio, your laptop, your phone, however it is that you're listening to the program, because this show should really grab your attention. So welcome to this week's version of Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars. We're one of Central Florida's longest running radio programs, also one of the most listened to weekend programs, because we're on a variety of networks throughout the Central Florida region, all the way over to the Space Coast, in fact, for one of those channels. So a great opportunity if you reside here in Central Florida, listen into the program here live on Sundays. If for some reason you miss us, well, then you know how to get us. Just go to our website, NelsonFinancialPlanning.com. There's a bunch of icons there. Click on the one that looks most familiar, and you will get automatically redirected over to our channel on whatever your favorite podcast channel is, or even if you want to see me do the show and talk with my hands, which is what I'm prone to do, you can watch us on YouTube. So all of those are options for you. My name, of course, is Joel Garris. I am a certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary at Nelson Financial Planning. Well, we got a team of great people, all of whom are certified financial fiduciaries, but they also have their own area of specialty. So over the course of the past few years, you've had an opportunity to meet them as they've co-hosted the program from time to time. We've got CPAs, we've got IRS enrolled agents, we've got National Social Security Advisor, we got CFP, we got the whole thing, because it's so important to make sure that all parts of your financial picture, whether it be the investment side, the tax side, the Social Security side, the retirement side, are in fact working together. And you need a team in order to accomplish that. So, without further ado, let's get into the meat of today's show. Two disturbing trends that should keep you awake at night. So don't listen to this program if you're trying to go to sleep, because these stories that we're going to share on this week's program are going to cause you to lose sleep, because both of these trends can cost you money, can and do cost you money. Trend number one is the increasing financial advisory fees in the landscape known as the financial services industry. That is trend number one that we're going to be talking about on the program today. Trend number two is the increasing amount of online scams that are perpetuating themselves, not just among the older age group among us, But interestingly, and statistics show this, that more and more these scams are actually targeting younger people, people in their 20s. Both of these trends, whether it's the increasing financial advisory fees or the increasing amount of scams, involve people taking advantage of you, involve people that are at an informational advantage, which puts you more in the victim side of the category. Both of these trends can be very costly, and both are on the rise. So here we go. Story number one regarding the disturbing trend of increasing financial advisory fees. So we met with someone for the first time just this past week, concerned about their performance and unclear of what the cost was. And let's face it, doesn't cost always matter, right? I mean, when you go to the grocery store, do you want to pay $10 for the bag of flour, or is there one for $5, right? And assuming it's kind of the same brand, same kind of flour, well then, yeah, I mean, costs of course matter. Well, they particularly matter when it comes to your retirement, your investments, right? Because chances are that's probably the single largest asset that you have. And the higher the cost, the less of a return that you're actually going to see from those investments, right? That sort of makes sense, right? The higher the cost, the greater the impact on the investor. The higher the cost, the less money the investor makes, the less money the investor has to spend in their retirement. In this particular case, the cost was kind of shocking. And here's the thing. It's usually buried somewhere in the 50 or 60 or 70 page statement that you might be getting. And it takes some time and probably some expertise to find it, but it's there, buried usually on page 47 out of 50. Got to know where to look, because it is kind of buried in those big, thick statements. But here's the thing, this time of year, right, you probably have gotten your annual statement for 2023. So somewhere on that annual statement, see, sometimes it doesn't show up sort of on the monthly statements, but usually on the annual statement, it's going to be there because that's the sum total of that entire year. So then you get to see exactly what those expenses are. In this particular case, we go to page 47 out of the 50-page statement, and lo and behold, the charge was 1.25% on an account that was $2.5 million. Now, this wasn't some boutique specialty firm that they were with. No. This wasn't something exotic. This was, in fact, one of the largest network of advisors that at last count, and I Googled it, so I sort of know it's accurate, right? When you Google stuff, it's always accurate, something like that. 8,700 advisors work for this particular institution, which has over $1 trillion in assets under management. This is one of the biggest institutions, and you would think that they might be able to figure out how to scale, right? But nope. Charges 1.25% on a $2.5 million account. Stop and think about that for just a second. Do the math. That's an annual cost on that $2.5 million account of $31,250. Is that high? I think it is. And when we come back, we're going to talk about that a little bit more and break it down so that you can see where that cost might be hiding, to make sure that you're not a victim of this ever-increasing trend in the financial services industry of higher and higher and higher fees. Coming up next year on Dollars and Cents. Go back to Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning. On the program, we're talking about two of the disturbing trends that we're seeing to kick off 2024. Trend number one, the ever-increasing financial advisory fees. Folks, this time of year, you're getting those 2023 annual statements. Take a minute. I know it's buried on page 47 of 50, but look at those expenses. We just spent some time just this past week with someone who was coming into the office for the very first time, pouring through those statements. Lo and behold, and I'm going to repeat those numbers again, 1.25% on their $2.5 million account. You know what that adds up to? If you do the math, it's $31,250. Let me say that again. That's a cost of $31,250 on a $2.5 million account. Here's the thing. That's only part of the cost, because when you look at the investments or the particular investments, mutual funds, ETFs, whatnot, that this particular account held, well, every single one of those also has additional expenses as well. We're talking just about a piece of the expense, not the piece that you don't see with this respect to the expenses inside the investments, some of which added another 1% of expense into the total mix. I'm going to put this further into perspective because we're going to stay on this story of the individual that came in and visited with us this past week. So this person was retired. They were looking for some supplemental income out of their portfolio. Again, $2.5 million. It's a pretty good sized portfolio. And effectively, they were looking for like income that was less than 2% of their $2.5 million portfolio. So like around like $4,000 a month. So $50,000 a year. That's the equivalent of 2% of $2.5 million. The problem is, again, you go back to the $31,000 of fees, not including the investment expense, but just the financial advisory fee at 1.25%. The fees were over 50% of the income that they were trying to get out of their investment portfolio. Folks, this is a disturbing trend that impacts you, the investor, you, the retiree, and ultimately reduces down how much money you have. That's kind of excessive, don't you think? I mean, these are the things that you need to know, folks. This time of year, you get those annual statements, look through them, and see how much you are paying. Is there a separate expense cost? And then, in terms of the investments that you own, what are the costs associated with those as well? Do the investments themselves as additional? Because the reality is, unless it's an individual stock, if it's a mutual fund, an ETF, or whatever the case may be, yeah, there's other costs inside there. So you have to combine those two together. I'm going to take a moment, and we don't necessarily sort of toot our own horn, if you will, kind of like a lot of other programs do every 5 seconds, or at least I don't think we do. We're going to just take a moment and just do a little comparison, okay, to share sort of the rest of the conversation that we had with this particular gentleman this past week. On an account that size, $2.5 million, our compensation works out to be 0.25%. So stop and think about that right there. The difference between 0.25% versus 1.25%, compensation that would go to us, 0.25%, that's $6,250. I think that's still a pretty good amount of money, right? On a $2.5 million account, chances are, if I can't figure out my economies of scale as a business and have over $6,000 of income on a single individual client, then maybe I probably shouldn't be given advice in the first place. But lo and behold, you've got these giant financial institutions, 8,700 financial advisors at last count, over $1 trillion in assets, and they're charging 1.25%. Does that strike you as making sense? It shouldn't. I mean, maybe because your account's so big, it's $2.5 million, and you're like, doesn't matter. Well, good on you if you think that way. I don't know why you would think that way, because that cost, that money, On this $2.5 million account, 1.25%, the cost is $31,250. Our cost at 0.25% is $6,250. That's a difference of $25,000. Whose pocket do you want that $25,000 in? You want it in mine? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad we got some fans out there. That's good. But I don't think you really want that. I would think that you would want that $25,000 in this particular example. Now, maybe use that for a nice vacation, right? That's almost, I guess, a semester's worth of college, depending upon where you go. Maybe you can get a year out of it for $25,000. Or perhaps that's a very generous donation to your favorite charity or church or whatever the case may be. And I guess that's the question. Don't you want that money going to your own benefit rather than the firm that you're dealing with? And the crazy thing is, you would think in today's world that these advisory costs and things like that would be going down. And that's just not the case. And we see that trend. And that's why we're referring to it as a disturbing trend here in the new year. If you're over 1% on any amount of money, obviously a $2.5 million account, that's a good size account, but for some reason still getting charged 1.25% at this large financial institution. It's your money. These are the kinds of things that ultimately you want to make good sense out of your dollars, right? So you got to really pay attention to what the costs are. That's story number one of the two disturbing trends that we're talking about on the program this week. We're going to shift gears to the other disturbing trend. And this one is hits home. And it should hit home to pretty much every single listener out there, because it's not a function of if you're going to be approached from a scam artist. It's a function of when. So here's the story on sort of the disturbing second trend that we're talking about in the program today. And that is this increasing amount of online scams. And if you think it can't happen to you, if you think you can't be fooled, look, these are professionals whose job it is to get your money out of your pocket and put it into theirs using whatever means possible. Now, here's the interesting development on this front, and here's really the key thing that I want you to listen to. It used to be that it seemed like these scams sort of really targeted elderly people, right? Folks of a certain age, maybe a little bit more susceptible, maybe not, quite as cognitive as maybe what they were when they were younger. So it seemed like that there was a lot of these scams that really sort of targeted, our most vulnerable population, the elderly. And that's not the case anymore. There's been a significant shift of a lot of these scams and online scams to really focus on the younger generation. And stop and think about that, if you will, for just a minute, as to kind of again, these are professional criminals behind these scams. So they're not idiots. And they're like, well, wait a minute. If I'm talking to a guy who's a gal who's 75, do they really know how to take a picture and text it to someone? Are they really that savvy that that's easy for them to do? Don't they get kind of frustrated with a QR code? I mean, does a 75-year-old, is he really going to be able to, allow me to perpetuate my scam in a rapid, easy fashion? Or if I'm maybe trying to scam a 25-year-old, well, shoot, those guys know how those phones work pretty good. They can take pictures, they can text it. It's like second nature. And here's the problem. This is why this is one of the more disturbing trends this year. When you're young, you're invincible, you're not really maybe have your guard up as much. And that's when they strike. So when we return, we're going to tell you two different stories at two different educational institutions of higher learning in two different areas of the country that we're going to share with you to really emphasize the need for you to pay attention and warn your kids and grandkids to pay attention as well. Coming up next year on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning. Talking about two of the disturbing trends that we're already seeing here in 2024. In the first part of the program, we were focusing on that first disturbing trend of ever increasing financial advisory fees. Folks, the example that we saw just this past week, someone with $2.5 million paying 1.25%. That's over a $30,000 cost on an annual basis. Those are the kinds of things that you really need to comb through your statements and see exactly how much it is that you are paying. 1.25% is way more than what you should, in our personal opinion, and perhaps it might be time to get somebody to take a second look at that. Why? Because if you're paying $25,000 more than what you should be paying on that kind of an investment account, who do you really want to benefit that $25,000 from? I mean, it can be yours or it can be the financial institution. I would submit that maybe you want it. Unless you just don't care about your money, then pay whatever you want. I think you do. That's probably why you're listening to the show. Trend number 2, and this one strikes home because I have 3 kids that are in their early 20s. That age group, folks, this is the other part of the disturbing trend. These online scams are increasingly focusing on that younger generation. Why? Yeah, they're probably a little more savvy with how to use their phone, right? If you're 75, can you really take a picture and then upload it and then text it and QR code it? And maybe you can, maybe you can't. The reality is if you're 25, you probably know how to do that pretty quick. Scammers know that. So there's been a significant shift in terms of the age demographics that they are looking for to try and scam people of that younger generation. So it used to be that you had to spend time kind of warning your parents, your grandparents, or the elderly, because that was always kind of the target, if you will, of these scams. The reality is that you need to warn your kids and your grandkids, because this is significant, and this is a significant shift in kind of how these scams operate. And we've got 2 stories from 2 different educational institutions that just came out just this past week that we wanted to share with you on the program to really help drive this concept clear in your mind. So welcome on into Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of those different decisions that you face every single day with your dollars, whether it's some email that randomly comes to you saying, hey, can you buy me some gift cards? Or whether it's your annual statement and trying to figure out exactly how much you're paying for your financial advisory services. Those are the kinds of things that are the purpose of this program. My name, of course, is Joel Garris. I'm a certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary at Nelson Financial Planning. If you like the program, or maybe you missed the first part of it, or maybe you want to hear it again, hey, there's plenty of outlets for that. Go to our channel on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, and you can find us there. Once there, make sure you subscribe to us. That way you don't have to kind of search for us next time. But if you have any trouble finding us, you can always go to our website, nelsonfinancialplanning.com. That's the website to go to. You'll see a bunch of icons. Click on them. They'll redirect you to whatever the platform is that you're looking for, and then you'll go directly to our channel on that platform. So you make sure you check us out on that. Also, before I forget, of course, our new book, Next Gen Dollars and Cents, written last year, summarizing the essential tools and strategies to learn, organize, and ultimately achieve financial success. Free copies available. We extended the free hard copy offer for another month. It was originally going to end at the end of the year. We extended it another month to the end of January. So not too late to request your free hard copy of our new book, Next Gen Dollars and Cents. So on to the stories, if you will. So story number 1 on this increasing amount of scams, in particular, that are targeting younger generations, takes place at the educational institution known as Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. That's where my youngest son, Connor, goes. He had a friend who's setting up a work-related email account. The first email that popped in was, you guessed it, oh, I need a favor about gifting some coworkers some gift cards because they really did such a great job last year. Can you please email me your number so I can text you the details? Sadly, that's exactly what this college student did. And they were soon sucked into buying a variety of gift cards, scratching the code off, then taking a picture of the back that has the gift card number and then the code that allows you to use it, and sending them off to who they thought was kind of somebody associated with the work firm that they were about ready to start. 8 cards later at $250 each, purchased at 2 different multiple locations of these particular companies or retailers. They got word back from their actual employer that it wasn't them. So this college kid, friend of my son's at Northeastern, out $2,000. That's pretty significant, right? A college kid, $2,000. It's a lot of beer money, I guess. Probably even more. That might even cover some of the tuition. That is scam number 1 at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. Scam number 2 comes to us from and again, these are stories just this past week. Just this past week. Story number 2 comes to us from the other school that my other son is at, the University of Virginia. So we got all of this playing out in Boston. And then lo and behold, at the University of Virginia, this is an official looking email that encourages people to apply for a job posting for a student assistant position. Please scan the QR code for more details. And apparently a bunch of University of Virginia students did just that, wound up giving away personal information, wound up sending money. Again, college kids losing money to these scams. Enough so that the University of Virginia Police Department issued out an alert. Once again, here's the commonalities of these stories. These are college students that are out of money. And the commonality of these 2 stories, which relates back to this disturbing trend of the increasing amount of online scams that are out there, is the victims aren't now the elderly. The victims are now college-age kids, hitting them on campuses at the start of a semester in 2 totally different areas, right? Virginia, Boston, Massachusetts. Please take a moment and warn your kids, your grandkids, and yes, warn your elderly parents as well. But these scams are real. They happen every day. They are highly professional people, and you can very easily become a victim like that. And once that happens, it's going to go very, very quickly. People of any age need to be aware of this. It's awful, sad, right? College kids losing a few $1,000s, that's tough, right? I mean, I remember my college days at the University of Maine. Money was pretty hard to come by. And that's before school got expensive. So take a moment and warn those that you know that this is, in fact, a real issue. And it is a real issue that is having a disturbing increase, particularly on college campuses in America today. These scammers are good. They'll make you think that you're trying to do something good or make you think that you're trying to impress an employee or a boss or apply for a job or whatever the case may be. But when it gets down to it, if somebody starts to ask, can you send me money? Can you send me your information? Can you send me a copy of a gift card? Just stop, because it's not real. With that, we're going to take a break. Coming up, more here on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning. Speaking of scams, this one came up in the week, this over the course of the past couple of weeks as well, in a couple of different parts. We've talked about this on a prior program, but it is something that I wanted to kind of reiterate again, and that's this notion of property fraud, where it has to do with these stories of people getting their houses basically stolen out from underneath them by the filing of illegal or fraudulent deeds with the local county records department. The FBI, in fact, says that this is one of the fastest growing crimes occurring. Is this notion of filing a fraudulent document in the official records, changing ownership of said property to the thief, and ultimately, or ultimately maybe even putting a lien on the property. And the reality is, it's this kind of crime is often undetected, and the reality is, though, that checking those documents on a regular basis allows for sort of that early warning against something like this. So had a conversation this past week with maybe it was a week before last. It's been a busy week. If you've been listening to the rest of the program, you know that we've been talking a lot about some of the stories and some of the situations that we've seen just this past week about two of the more disturbing trends that we're already seeing here in 2024. Trend number one is the ever-increasing financial advisory fees. We told the story of that individual who's paying 1.25%, not including the expenses of the investments that they actually own. So that's another thing on top of that. But 1.25% on a $2.5 million account, over $30,000 of cost. We contrasted that with our services, which typically for that size of account, because that's a good size account, at 0.25%. That's about $25,000 per year savings. That $25,000 actually equated to half of the income that the individual was looking to draw off of their investment account. So bottom line there is, if you missed that part of the program, take a moment and look at your annual statement that you probably just got over the course of the past few days, and go to page 47 out of 50. That's usually where it's buried. And ultimately, take a look at how much those expenses are that you are paying. If they're one and a quarter, and it's a good size account, like, a couple $1 million, that's way too much. And you shouldn't be paying that. That's number one. Number two is these disturbing stories that are coming out of college campuses around the world. I have two kids now in college. Both college campuses have had these issues over the course of the past week here at the start of the semester. Watch out for these online scams. Watch out for these scams. It is clearly the target is younger people now, more even so than elderly people, because the sophistication of being able to take pictures and text and email and all of that. Hey, if you're 25, that's second nature. Unfortunately, when you're 25, you're also think you're relatively invincible. I can say that because I have 3 kids that are in their early 20s, and you may not be as guarded as you might otherwise be. Wham! Scammers know that. They take advantage of that, and all of a sudden, you're talking about a number of college kids that have lost significant sums of money here to start the semester, both at Northeastern and at the University of Virginia. So, warn not just your elderly parents, but warn your kids and warn your grandkids to be on the lookout for this kind of stuff. Certainly some things to consider to avoid being a victim. On those advisory expenses that we were talking about, look, if you can't find those on your statement, please reach out to us at the office at Nelson Financial Planning. We'll be able to find them for you and kind of really point them out so that you can see just how much it is that you are paying. So take a moment, take us up on that offer to look at your statements for you so that you can see that cost and make sure you're not overpaying for what it is that you're getting, because the trend clearly is a higher and higher expenses, particularly in the financial services industry. I know we've got some availability this week to come on into the office for just that conversation. So don't hesitate to reach out to us either by calling our phone number 407-629-6477 or simply visiting our website, nelsonfinancialplanning.com. While there, you can also pick up your free hard copy of our new book, Next Gen Dollars and Cents, continuing to provide free hard copies of the book at no cost until the end of this month. And then that special offer will end and you'll have to go purchase it over on Amazon where it is available as well. But there you got to pay Amazon to get it. So might want to give us a call because we're doing it for free between now and the end of the month of January. So anyway, back to kind of the story that we were starting to set up here at the beginning of this segment, this notion of property fraud, which is one of the fastest growing crimes, where somebody files a fraudulent document in the official records that ultimately changes ownership of a particular property. And lo and behold, had a conversation with a client this past week about, okay, how do I prevent that? And the way to prevent that is you go to these websites that are available on through the local county property records people. Orange County Property Records Department also has a separate website that is Property Fraud Alert. And so when you sign up for that, and it's just simple as putting in your address and your email, and that's it. And then if something gets filed with respect to that particular address, you automatically get an email that says, hey, property fraud alert, document alert. A document has been recently recorded in the official public records that matches the monitor criteria provided by yours truly, Joel Garris. So I wound up getting one of these emails on Tuesday, January the 16th, in connection with a particular piece of property that I had registered under this service. Now, folks, this is a free service, so you want to take advantage of it because it's free, and you don't have to go and hire somebody or pay someone to monitor property to try and address this growing crime of fraudulent documents getting filed against people's homes in the official records. You can go to these property fraud alert websites that are sponsored through the local counties. Orange County's got one, Volusia County's. I think pretty much every county here in the state of Florida has that property fraud alert website that you can go, put your name in, put your email in. It's super easy to do, and it's free. And then when something gets filed, you get an email. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly how it worked. On Tuesday, January 16th at 9:14 a.m., I got this property fraud alert. One of the properties I had done that on, that's in a trust that I'm involved with, poof, there it is, because a document had been filed. Now, in this particular case, I clicked through and saw the document, and okay, it was a certificate of trust that was filed with respect to that property. So all good, no issues. But the reality is that this is the kind of thing that you want to sign up for to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because here's the thing, and this may be a little disturbing, but this is the reality of it. Straight from the Orange County Property Official Records website, they have no authority. Orange County has no authority to refuse a record, to refuse to record a properly prepared document, even if it may be fraudulent. Even if it's proven to be fraudulent, no document can be removed from the official records without a judge's order from the court. So, kind of important to sign up for these free property fraud alert services. When someone asks, the reality is, though, you can't prevent it, but early detection is crucial to be able to address it. So make sure you take the time to do that. Do what you can to protect yourselves out there, folks, because the world's getting crazier, is all I can say. With that, we're going to wrap it on up. and get on out of here. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Dollars and Cents. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope, most importantly, that you found it informative. If you want us to take a second look at your statements to see how much you're paying in expenses for your financial advisory services, give us a call this week, 407-629-6477, or visit our website, nelsonfinancialplanning.com. And from there, you can schedule an absolutely free conversation with us. With that, hope you have a great week. This has been Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning here on Dollars and Cents.